Welcome back, everybody, to the Black Men with Purpose podcast. For those of you joining us for the first time, it's a pleasure to have you with us. This here is a safe space where we share our thoughts on a multitude of topics. There's a lot going on right now, so we got a lot to talk about. But we do share this with the hopes of helping Black males and young and not so young to overcome the obstacles and challenges that can be hindrances to happiness, productivity, and success. We do believe that through our experiences and successes, and more importantly, our failures, we can have some conversations that might help other Black males in their respective journeys through this thing we call life. And on today's episode, we are coming back for season 4, but we have to ask the question, what do we do now? So, before we get into current events, I think I just kind of want each one of us to share the unique feeling of the first time of us launching the season. We got a new intro and everything without our beloved brother and the founder of Black Men with Purpose, Kevin Danley. For me, it's and let's be clear, he's not permanently gone. Some scheduling conflicts. There's some scheduling conflicts, and so he's taking some time away. But we might have him on several times this season. We're definitely going to be getting his perspective. We're definitely going to be shooting some clips of him giving his opinion and his thoughts about some of the things that we'll be talking about. And in the future, we may be able to find a way to reincorporate him back. But right now, we want to encourage him on this new journey that he and his beautiful wife are taking and discovering. And I'm going to put some info in there. Y'all need to go check out their YouTube page so you can check out their travels and see all the amazing things that they're doing. But for me, it is bittersweet. He came through every episode and gave us that introduction. Man, he really kind of righted the ship and kind of gave us our pathway and what. So it's going to be interesting because us four, we can be some characters. So I look forward to the direction that the show is going to go in without Kevin. But absolutely, we miss him, and we can't wait to get him back on the show. So I'm gonna pass it over to the man that is sitting. I think it's to my right or to my left or whatever. He's right over from me. So Ray, share something with us, brother.
Yeah, this is a bittersweet moment. Like you said, John. It doesn't seem. Well, I won't say what doesn't seem right. It just seems weird, that Kevin is not here with us. But again, as you eloquently stated, that's this chapter that he and his wife are on in life is a beautiful thing, and I'm going to continue to live vicariously through him. I am going to miss his doggone input while we are in having our discussions, but knowing that I have you, Rod, and Byron here as well, man, that's going to, I value y'all's opinions as well and your input, but it's just going to seem a little weird that we don't have Kevin to provide his insight and to throw those big words that he loves to throw out. I'm gonna miss that on occasion, but yeah, this is gonna be different, man. But again, I'm looking forward to seeing where the future is taking us, man. This is gonna be it's gonna be great. So I guess my having said that, I will pass it on to Brother Rod.
Thanks. So I was thinking about this, and so I just go back to a place where we all kind of can relate to. But remember, we worked together in the office, in recruiting, and y'all probably weren't there yet. But I remember when the staff were getting ready to go out to California to shoot the new national ad campaign, and everybody that worked together all day, every day, it seemed like everybody got the call and was getting tickets. And I just remember being like the only one who didn't go.
I didn't go.
Yeah. Byron as well, but I remember, Kevin, Pat, Marie, they all went out there, they calling back, talking about the weather and shooting on the beach and eating at all the swanky spots in Southern California. And I'm like, all right, well, somebody has to hold it down. So we back here trying to hold it down. And it's kind of like that now, Kev is doing his thing, super happy for him, and again, those of us that had to do it in the past get to live vicariously through him as he and his bride go out on that journey together. But yeah, he would expect y'all to hold it down. So we're expecting y'all to hold it down.
Y'all?
I said y'all, but us.
You know it's us. We ain't paying you no mind. We ain't paying you no mind.
Yeah, so over to you, Dr. B.
No, man. He left us just like he did in California. He left us. But that's okay. That's how we got the new. That's why we got the new intro. Just to let you know. We'll do it without you. That's why we got a new intro. But now, you know how I got to put that in. But no, seriously though, we glad that Kevin kind of orchestrated getting us all together. And the other thing he's doing, he's actually showing us some of the things that we talked about sharing with other people. Go out, see the world, step outside of your comfort zone, step outside and see some other experiences, some other cultures, the other way of living. And that can brighten your horizon. You don't necessarily have to go to school to get a degree to brighten your horizon. So not only did he fulfill, his dream of completing his education, but now he's showing us, listen, there's another side of life that we can enjoy. Just get out of your comfort zone, get you a passport, get a couple of stamps on it. You know what I'm saying? And see how much you can broaden who you are as a person. So, I'm looking forward to him. Even though he left us, that's cool though. It's cool. I ain't gonna worry about that. But I'm looking forward to him coming back and giving his input from now and then. So, but like Rod said, we got it. Y'all can hold it down. Y'all got it.
Not another y'all.
Y'all got it.
Not another y'all. You part of us, man. No. And it's obvious. I don't think that it just goes without saying. In the mix of the jokes and the interesting stories, we miss our brother. We wish you well, man. We are following. We are fans. We're living vicariously, and we'll be excited for a chance for us to circle the wagons and get back together. So, but we're going to continue on the work that you were such a big part of starting. So we're excited about that. And now we're going to move to a new segment, y'all. We are the Black Men with Purpose podcast. And so now we're going to start opening up the show on a variety of topics, but we know what's going on right now. We've been gone for a while and there's a lot to talk about since we left. So our new section that we want to introduce to y'all now is Black Men, how are y'all feeling? I'll get it started. How am I feeling? I am feeling frustrated. I am feeling disappointed in the fact that we are having to circle back so far. Like all of us lived through at least the Reagan era, 16 years of the Bush family. We've got that experience, and coming up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And, it just felt like so much progress had been made. And I almost feel like maybe all of that progress that was made was just the wool being pulled over our eyes. I know better than that, but that's just how it feels right now. It's just like, wow, and I'm frustrated because there are people that see what's happening, see what's going on, see how serious this is, and yet they have the audacity to be quiet in their comfortable areas while it's really going down. Like, that is so frustrating to me, because a lot of this just could have been some people recognizing the writing on the wall and thinking, oh, this won't make a big difference. And now we're sitting in the midst of it making a tremendous difference. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of uncertainty. There are a lot of people that are hurting. And just as with that first administration, there are going to be a lot of people extremely negatively impacted. And, there's a lot on the line. And so I'm going to pass it to Byron, specifically because I'm very interested to hear your perspective, not only as somebody that really is in tune with the political landscape, but also from the perspective, as your position as a man of God, and how you kind of see it from a spiritual perspective also. So I'm going to pass it to Byron and ask you, black man, how you feeling?
Hey, I'm like you. I'm kind of like all over the place. And I had to get to a point where I had to just settle my own spirit and just, well, first of all, being a pastor, one thing I had to go back to, and I went back to this 2 Timothy chapter 1, when Paul was reminding Timothy of your ancestors, your mother Lois and your grandmother Eunice. They were your sounding board until the Spirit of Christ came. And so I had to remind the people of my church on Sunday, guess what? We've been here before. Our ancestors have gotten us through this to this point. So with also that being said, there's some people scared. There's some people in my church that have been impacted by these executive orders. They went to work one day, and by that afternoon, they were out of a job. So yeah, it's fear. But then also I work at DHS, and guess what? On Tuesday, it was saying, you guys got to come back to work. You got to do all this. And then by Friday, it was like, hey, your organization, I don't like it, so I'm closing it. And so today we get a memo, oh, don't worry about it. You guys are good for another year. So it's just like, part of me is upset at the fact that, I don't want to say black and brown people, just people in general just didn't believe what he said he was going to do. And the fact that women supported him in big numbers, women supported him. And in spite of the fact of how he treated women, they supported him. I'm disappointed in black and brown people that supported him, because you didn't think about the people coming after you. Yes, maybe you don't have any children, but you got nieces and nephews. You got people that's going to come behind you that's going to be impacted by some of his rhetoric, some of his laws. And because you only thought for the right now, and that's one thing we definitely got to get across. We got to think about more than just the right now. We got to think about, how is this going to impact us 15, 20 years from now? It may not impact us, but guess what? It may impact the children that live across the street from you. It's going to impact your nieces and nephews. It's going to impact people that's close to you. And we just have to start thinking, we got to stop thinking about ourselves when we vote. We got to start thinking about ourselves when we make these type of decisions. And so for me, I mean, that, you speak to and I'm the last point I'm saying, when you talk about the aspect of being, a man of God, I mean, that's the one thing we talked about was, this is a conflict that I have with some of these evangelicals. You say you want to walk like Christ, but then you sacrifice Jesus, but you give us Barabbas the thief to run the country. So it just baffles me that how people will use anything to hide their racism. And at the end of the day, that's just how I feel. At the end of the day, we're still dealing the racism part. So I know we're going to talk more about it, but that's it for me. So I'll give it over to I'll give it over to Rod because I know he gonna bring it home.
No, I would just say when people show you who they are, believe them. Believe them. And I will tell you, fellas, for me, since I have given up watching the news, I probably haven't been personally as impacted because I don't hear all the noise, right? But I do know what's going on. I mean, I still, the news feeds come across and I see the the headlines. But I will tell you, for me, and I have been spending some time already, even before the inauguration, fasting and praying. And so I was already in a good place. And for me, it just, I feel an airy sense of peace because for me, it has made me realize that my focus, our focus, especially those who are believers, my focus has to be on God's word, his will and his promises, and have faith in that. And I will tell you, it's not an easy thing to do, notwithstanding, because people are suffering. People are going to continue to suffer. But I realize that the things that we see going on have very little to do with whether or not people would suffer because of it. And the rhetoric has been going on for years now. And to me, it just says that folks are willing to sacrifice their morals, their standards, their beliefs. And I won't even say sacrifice. I will say make it known that they will sacrifice whatever for the sake of a specific agenda. Because you can't separate the acts that you see taking place and that you'll continue to see taking place. You can't separate those things from the person, and the hate, the evil, the vitriol that's behind it, the lack of empathy or concern for the impact that it's going to have on people's lives, So I would just say, focus on what you can control. Anyone that's listening, I would just encourage you to focus on what you can control and prepare yourself for what might be coming. And I would tell you now, and this is my last thing. I'll say, I think the challenge with us, and I would say, and I'll just speak about my own community, of Black folks where I come from. I think that the challenge is just in other instances when we haven't been able to come together, show some real unity, some real commitment to common goals that are bigger than us as individuals. We're not willing to make those sacrifices. And a lot of it has to do with selfishness. But because of that, as long as they can divide us, it's easy to conquer us. But I would encourage everyone to tighten up the belt. Sacrifices you weren't willing to make, you might be forced to make. And you just have to prepare yourself accordingly. So with that, I'll pass it on to Brother Ray.
Appreciate you, bro. That's going to be hard to follow. But wow, how am I feeling? I wrote two words down: irritated, frustrated. You know, I'm frustrated because I look at or I recall the lessons that my parents taught me. Of the things that they went through, and I'm frustrated because in my lifetime, in front of my eyes, I'm literally watching us take steps backwards to where my parents and my grandparents fought their way through. So that is frustrating in and of itself. And I've been trying to prepare myself since election day. Um, I absolutely refused to watch the inauguration. There was no point. There was no point in listening to the lies that I knew were going to come out of that man's mouth. You know, and everything that's going on thus far. The sad part of it all is we're only 1 week in, 1 week into 4 years. And it's like it's unbelievable to to I listen to my mom talk now about and her exact words. I've been there. I've gone through it. I'm not going back. The same words that we have been saying. We're not going back. We're 1 week in. You know, I used to look forward to the future. I mean, I just to see, having seen someone that looks like me occupying the White House, the potential of someone that looks like my wife or looks like my daughter had the opportunity to occupy the White House, but unfortunately, this country was not ready for it. Again, the same thing happened when Hillary Clinton ran. I wasn't a big Hillary fan, you know, I still am not. But this country was, I know I said this in one of our previous seasons, this country's always had an old white man run it. And that's how we ended up with Trump after we had Obama. And now we're right back into the, for the party that's supposed to be all about law and order. The person that we have in the White House is a convicted felon, someone that shouldn't be eligible, someone who wasn't eligible to vote here in the state of Florida, but yet he did. He was able to vote because they just basically allowed him to do whatever it is he wanted to do. So I'm to say it the I guess the easiest way to say is I'm concerned about the future. But like you just said, Rod, I know what God I serve. Um, my trust is in Him. And I know everything is going to be all right. I know we're going to have some rough roads ahead. But like my family before me, the generations before me that had to go through things I never had to go through. You know what? I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna tighten my boots up. I'm gonna cinch my belt up real tight, and we're gonna go forward because we have a voice and we know how to use it, and we're going to use it, and we're not going to be silenced for anybody. So, irritated and frustrated is how I feel, but because I have brothers like you, that brings forth a sense of optimism. So I'll leave it at that.
Brother Ray is a poet and he didn't know it. He's over here feeling irritated, frustrated, because he feels like he's been relegated and delegated. Now, let me stop. No, black men definitely how we feeling. Irritated, frustrated, just a lot. Grateful that Rod and Ray gave us the spiritual thing. Well, not thing, gave us the spiritual base to recognize, allow our faith to guide us. And Byron gave us even further. He was like, hey, your faith without works is dead, player. So get some action in there. For me, and fight the power. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Fight the power. Fight the power. But considering all that, we could really get into the political landscape. But first, I kind of just want to guide the conversation to kind of maybe our thoughts and if we have any strong thoughts or solutions about all of the DEI rollbacks in government and industry, a lot of us are just taken aback by Target doing a whole flip flop. They came out like, yo, we standing by it. And then it wasn't 2 days into the administration. Target was like, nah, we good. We going to go on and bend the knee, kiss the ring.
Yeah. I'll just say for me, whether it's Target or any other company, it just shows you that those corporations aren't necessarily committed to equity and inclusion, right? Whatever is the flavor of the day, whatever they believe is going to generate the most revenue for them, that's what they're going to be about. I mean, you could say the same thing regarding, Facebook, and that was a 180 he did, right? So, and I would just say, in this country, you have to stand for something and stand for what's right. The unfortunate thing is that I think you'll find very few willing to do that for what it might cost them. And I go back to the spiritual roots of a lot of Black folk. What if Jesus felt that way, knowing what fate was coming his way? So again, I just think that capitalism is the driver behind it all, which is why people are willing to set aside what they truly believe. And it just so happens that the DEI was first on the chopping block. This whole notion that people of minority in this country were getting something that they were either not qualified for or an opportunity they were not entitled to have. So we're going to take it back. Yeah. Now figure it out. Without any thought to why those programs were put in place in the first place. So again, I just think that people have to be realist, and quit hiding and quit acting like it's not going to have impact on them, because all these things that are going on, people are rallying and rah-rahing behind it because, they're keeping their campaign promises. They're doing what they said they were going to do. We were for it then. It won't be until it starts impacting their homes and households and livelihoods and way of life. And they must know, unless you are well off, it's going to impact you tremendously. It's coming. It's just a matter of how and when, and you already see people having buyer's remorse regarding their vote. But I'm like, no, keep that same energy, right? And then figure out a way to let your voice be heard if you are displeased with what you're seeing. So I'll pass it off to Dr. B, but it's my thoughts on that.
When I first heard about the Target rollback, and their explanation was because George Floyd was killed in the city of our headquarters, we felt the obligation to do something to support the Black community. But now that DEI has been rolled back, we feel like it's less advantageous to us to continue in this process. So for me, immediately, I'm thinking, so Target, you're saying that Black folks ain't worth anything unless we die? That's the way I took it. I don't know about y'all, but that's the way I took it. So basically, nobody, for the moment that we saw George Floyd die on national TV, all of a sudden it was horrific. Well, I thought about it. 47 is doing the same thing now, putting his knee on the neck of the country. We just not seeing it visually like we did. You know what I'm saying? So, but I see it every day. I mean, and those of you who still work in government, Rod, you know, every hour we was getting different orders. Oh, don't do this, don't do that. Oh, you got to come to work. And I had a friend of mine I talked to today. Her director said, "Oh, you all of a sudden you're 100% remote. Well, you got to come in the office starting tomorrow." I'm like, wait a minute, what? What about all these requirements, that things that people have put in place? And so I say that all to say that, according, you know, what tying into what Rod said, so many times people are misinformed about what DEI is. And DEI was not a handout. It was not something that was given to us. It was basically saying, remove the barriers that keep people from being treated equally in the workplace. That's all we were saying. We wasn't saying give us nothing, because we know you're not going to give us nothing anyway. Everybody on this call, we've always been taught since we were a little kid, you got to be better. You got to be better. If it was football, basketball, if it was in school, we was always taught you got to be better, because you're not going to get the same opportunities because of these barriers that was put in place. And that's all DEI was. Let's remove the barriers. Let's find out, hey, if these people are Asian, let's see why they celebrate the way they celebrate. Hispanics, let's talk about why we sell. It wasn't that we were giving them anything. It was just a better way. DEI was just, let's communicate so we can understand when you come to work feeling a certain type of way at this part of the year. I understand what feelings come up from you as a people from this generation, or this people from this part of the world. There's things that happen to you that I never experienced because I don't understand your culture. But that's what DEI was. Let's bring together these cultures, these ideas, so we can all get along with each other in the workplace and in our community. That's what it ideally was for. But, you know, for this mindset of y'all not qualified, I thought them, well, I know they wasn't, but for a minute we thought them days was over. That they could actually see us at what we've done and what we've accomplished in our careers and what we've done in our own community, and value who we are and what we bring to the table. But obviously we're going back in time. So I'm gonna give it over to Brother Ray. So
I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah.
When I thought about Target, you know, it bothered me because, you know, that's one of the places I knew that you could find Black products. You know, they were big on selling Black owned, Black made products, you know, and, you know, to me, that was saying what we value you. But now with them rolling back the DEI program or initiatives, it's like, no, we don't value you. We value your money, but we value everybody else's money more than we value you. So we're going to go along with the program because we don't want to miss out on everybody else's money, even though we're getting yours. We want to make sure we get everybody else's as well. So that bothered me, and you know, in knowing that DEI was established to give everyone an opportunity, you know, especially Black folks that weren't given an opportunity back in the day, even though we were twice as qualified, we couldn't get the job because we didn't fit in with the narrative. We didn't fit in with the color scheme, if you will. So that irritated me as well. Rod has made a point about, you know, when he said stand for what's right, you know, and that is the hard thing to do nowadays, because a lot of these people would rather be accepted and revered than to be truthful and unpopular. By saying this is how this is going to affect people like me, people who look like me, black, brown, Asian folks. This is how it's going to affect us negatively. They don't care. So we got too many Byron Donalds and Tim Scotts of the world who want to fit in, and say, well, you know what, I'm gonna bow down, I'm a kowtow, and they're gonna accept me because I'm going along with the program. And then they come and find out that no, you just like everybody else. We ain't got no black job for you. Go stand over there in the corner with everybody else. You know, so that's that's how I feel about it, man. And I know a lot of the folks that went along with the voting for Trump and for the right. Uh, how many times have we heard folks saying, say that, this is not going to happen to me because I'm with the in group, and then they effed around and found out that no, you're exactly who we're targeting. You're one of the people that we're looking at deporting. Yeah, your child has birthright citizenship, but you don't. So all of y'all got to go. They and now they're out here crying for help, saying, "Well, somebody help me." Well, I'm sorry, bro. I can't do nothing but laugh at you because we tried to tell you. This is what Project 2025 was saying all along, and we're telling you, look at it, listen to us, read it for yourself, and you'll see exactly what's coming down the pike. And you didn't want to believe it because you felt like you were part of the in crowd. But I'm gonna stop because I'm getting ready to get started. Go ahead, B. It sounds like you got something to say.
Well, going back to what you were saying about Rod about just doing the right thing. I talked to matter of fact, both of them today. One's a superintendent in the school system, another is a principal in the school. You talk about impact, Ray. You got kids in elementary school that are not even, they're U.S. citizens, but they're upset for their classmates that are not coming to school because they don't know if they've been deported or not. Mm-hmm. You got kids, you got whole communities, they've shut down grocery stores and they've shut down operations because they don't want people coming to work and being deported. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all about coming into the country lawfully. Let's get the gang members. Let's get the people out here that's raping, killing people. Yes, let's go get these people. But at the same time, how do you, it's going back to, the Gaza war. It's like, how do we still do what we have to do, but still show humanity to the people who are not impacted? I mean, and that's the thing. This guy just writes and signs an executive order, and he doesn't realize the chaos that he's causing in little small towns. And so, again, back to what Rada said, you could still do the right thing without causing chaos in everybody's life.
Yeah, when we talk about illegal immigration, man, we gotta be careful of the stereotypes because the immigrant community has a lower rate and propensity to crime than the normal or the legal citizenry. And when we talk about we got to do something about immigration, I promise you, they're not going into them Irish neighborhoods. They're not going into those Russian neighborhoods. They're not going into those Italian neighborhoods and rounding up any of their illegal immigrants. No, they're going to black and brown communities because, black people thinking that they won't be affected. But if they think that you got Jamaican roots or Haitian roots or any of that, they coming after you. But it's funny because DEI, veterans preference and veterans with disability falls under that.
Military spouses,
military spouses, Americans with disabilities. When you just talk about diversifying your workforce, creating equity and inclusion, a example of equity is making a building or a workspace wheelchair accessible. That's a version of equity, but they have allowed themselves to get so wound up that they think the DEI mean black people.
Hmm.
You know, and it's just terrible because they get all these myths and all this stuff going on out there. And again, it's just ridiculous because when you talk about affirmative action or DEI or any of these, they're not there to reduce standards to get a leg up. They're there to prevent people from just saying right out, I don't want to hire you because you're black. I don't want to hire you. And then, the big thing, you find out that the big majority of all these programs benefit white women more than any other group. But that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, with the Target, I felt just like there's some black owned businesses that got a great opportunity from Target. Some of them I actually use. Black and Bold Coffee, Me and the Bees Lemonade, A Dozen Cousins, Partake Foods. There's all kind of like beauty stuff, like the Lip Bar, cosmetic brand, Black Girl Sunscreen, Luna Magic, Camille Rose for lifestyle. We know that Tabitha Brown has products in there from her seasonings to her hair care products, Donna's Recipe, and all of these things. So it's just like it's so disappointing, and then it just kind of puts us in this conundrum. So like, how do we handle that? Do we just am I in a position to where I could boycott Target? Yeah, because most of the stuff that I get from Target, I could get from somewhere else. Like, I just like going into Target because I didn't like going into Walmart's here in the DMV area because I just was like, I don't have to live like this anymore. So I would go to Target a lot. Can I replace whatever I was going to Target for? Absolutely. I'll be just fine. Anything that I was buying from Target, I can find at another place or I can get it online. But I think about how, like, it's not just as simple as, okay, well, you in Target, go direct to sell. Like, a lot of these creatives and a lot of these black business owners had contracts with Target. They had situations where Target provided the infrastructure so that they could ship their goods. There was one um, black owner that said, hey, I can't just divest from Target because I provided them with, they wrote a contract and I provided them with what they needed. So it's on the shelves. And for me to withdraw from the contract and buy it back would cost me millions of dollars. And that would cause me to, have to go out of business. So, it's just a lot out there. And not to switch the conversation, but it's been a lot of talk about, do we boycott? We don't spend our money. And I'm not against boycotting. Everybody wants to pull out the Montgomery bus boycott. And I rarely hear people talking about the strategery involved with the Montgomery. They don't talk about the fact that they have been discussing it for years. They don't talk about the fact that people were providing rides. People had to walk. They don't talk about all of these things, and they also don't talk about how much more difficult it is to do a boycott on a national level than it is to do it on a local level, because they could meet in person and encourage each other and take care of each other in a way. Whereas just me not taking my behind the Target, and somebody else is going to suffer. I can't reach out to them and say, hey, stay strong, I'm going to help you in a way. No, I just drove by Target. I didn't do nothing else. So I don't know, fellas, what are y'all thoughts about boycotting and the financial disciplines that we need to implement in this time of these DEI? Um,
Yeah, no, that's actually a great point you bring up, John. I thought about that, you know, and again, it takes me back to kind of some foundational or fundamental principles uh, that we as a community of people just have never adhered to, and so to ask people to do that now, even in light of what's going on, they're not going to do it, right? Because people want what's convenient. You know, they don't want to impose themselves. I mean, just think about all the folks that decided not to vote this last election. I mean, I just think that there's some fundamental things that we don't necessarily understand about our voice that we have in this country. However, we're still spending hundreds of billions of dollars as consumers every year, you know, trying to show other people in our community that we've arrived and we've achieved something because I can afford to do this, I can afford to go here. When in all actuality, so what? You know, you still have your rights taken away, you know, like every other woman, you know. So I think that, you know, the idea of boycotts is fine, but I would say, you know, just to put it into a positive light, just like for me, you know, it's like, you know what, lean into your faith. If you're a person of faith, okay, lean into it. If you don't lean into it now, when? You know? And so with that thought in mind, I would just say, you know, if you find things from people whose visions, morals, standards line up with what you believe in, support them, support that. You know, no matter what their race is, but support that. You know, and don't support the things that you don't agree with. So if you don't agree with a company acquiescing to, you know, what's popular today, and changing their mind based on that, don't patronize them. You know? But my thing is, establish a standard for yourself, for your life, for how you're going to live it, and adhere to that, no matter what. You know, so I would encourage anyone out there that might be feeling some sort of way or despondent. I'm just like, okay, guess what? You're going to get a chance to vote again in your local elections. Are you doing it? You know, in your state elections, are you actually going to engage in the process that determines how you get to live in this country and what laws are enacted that impact you? Or are you going to continue to sit on the sideline, you know, and complain about it? Oh my goodness, stay off social media complaining about it. They told you what was going to happen a year ago, 2 years ago, actually 4 years ago.
Facts.
You already knew the retribution was coming. Don't wait till now to complain about it, especially if you're not going to do anything about it. So I'll pass it to Dr. B.
Yeah, we knew this was coming January 6, 2021.
Right. January 6, 2020, what, 20? Yeah, I was up in the hospital having my surgery, and I was like, I'm watching the insurrection. I'm like, my God, this, and while we was thinking that, I was like, this dude possibly can't get back in office. There's no way he can get back in office. I mean, after everything, you know, impeached twice and the 34 convictions, and I'm just like, okay, he just gonna show us what white privilege at a whole nother level is. But again, going back to Rod's point, we can't complain because we allowed it to happen. You know, we had an opportunity to do something about it, and we didn't. Whatever your and I've heard some of the craziest things as to why. I'm not even talking about white folks. I'm just talking about black folks that couldn't support Kamala Harris, but they supported Trump. Okay. I've heard, well, she married a gay couple. Okay. Is that the worst thing that you can think of, that because she married a gay couple? Oh, well, she put too many brothers in prison. Well, if y'all had voted, maybe the laws would have been different in your local state if you would have voted. I mean,
or if they would have done some study, they would have found out that it was less than 50.
False.
Yeah. I'm just like, so again, it goes back to Rod's point. It's like you didn't do your research. You didn't do your research, and again, I'm making this point short. It's like we're living in the right now, and I get it. We've never been taught to play the long game for anything. Long game with our finances, long game with our relationships, long game in education. Some of us have been taught, I got to live for the right now because tomorrow not promised to me. But when are we going to start thinking beyond today? You know what I'm saying? When are we going to start thinking beyond, what about me? When are we going to start thinking about our neighbors and the people coming out? When are we going to start thinking about that? At some point, and it's funny how you got people with children that still think about the right now. Again, we still, all of us that's on this call, I don't know about y'all. I know I'm a first generation college graduate. And so when you look at our white counterparts, we're talking third, fourth generation college graduate. You know what I'm saying? So we're still behind in our way of thinking of how do we get to our next. The moment we start thinking better about how do we get to our next instead of for the right now, man, that's when we're gonna actually prosper. We gotta start thinking about our next instead of the right now.
That's a bar. No, right, yeah, write that down, because that encapsulates it all. You can live for today because tomorrow's not promised. That don't mean that you don't plan for tomorrow where you expect to be, and the worst thing that could happen is that, okay, you saved for a rainy day, but it's not going to rain because you're no longer here. Okay, I guarantee you, your life is not going to be negatively impacted by taking that position. So, Brother Ray?
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking about boycotting. Unfortunately, it would never happen. We can't support our own community. We won't support our own community. All the black-owned businesses out here, and we're like, we don't want to see someone that looks like us get ahead. That's just my personal feeling. We don't want to see our own folks get ahead, but we have no problem with going to someone else's community and giving them our dollars. So a boycott of Target would never happen because we couldn't stick together long enough to do it, and we're not going to support our own. So that's just the long and short of it. It's sad to say, but how many years have we been saying? How many years have we been saying? How many years have we been seeing it, that we won't support our own folks? So it's a sad state of affairs. But like I said, only thing we can do is hope and pray. Let me emphasize that: hope and pray that our folks will start to pay attention to what's going on around them. And as Byron just said, voting in your local elections, voting in the midterm elections, and having our voice be heard, and versus saying, complaining. But then when you ask, well, did you vote? No. Well, why not? If you didn't vote, then don't complain. Whatever comes your way, you asked for this. You asked for it. So if you want to do something, if you want to complain, then do something. Say something. We all have voices, and there's a way for them to be heard. And if that's casting a ballot at the ballot box, make your voices heard. But
That is. Hey, fellas, I think that there's still some meat on this bone, but I think we can save some of that for the next episode because I don't think that we have even scratched the surface of this conversation for sure.
Right.
For sure.
It's only been 7 days, 8 days, whatever that is.
Right. We're gonna have in 2 weeks, we're gonna have about 100 more topics to talk about. But I did want to just encourage us to be mindful of the fact that we are a resilient people, and be mindful of the fact that it is strategic. There has been an all-out assault on Blackness in this country from the very beginning, and yet we still continue to rise. I know that usually in this part, Kevin would take us out with a quote, but I want to do something a little bit different. As a kid, I was a collector of comic books, and in 1990, I came across a comic book called Brother Man. I was so excited. It was started by two brothers, Guy and David Sim, and their friend Dawood Abiwale from they were all from Philly, and they started a black comic book independently in 1990, thinking about how the political landscape was then. And on the opening cover, it said, "Brother Man is here." And at the very bottom, it said, "Everything's going to be all right." It only lasted for 11 episodes. And through those episodes, Brother Man went through some things, whether it was dealing with his own personal growth and dealing with the enemies of this city that was based on Philadelphia, but it was called Big City, USA. And he went through a lot of things, and there was a couple of times when he really seemed like he was down and out. But the truth of the matter was, by the time it was all over, everything was all right. So I want to encourage everybody to keep your head up. We got some fights ahead of us, but we've got to make sure that we stay in the fight and know that everything's going to be all right. So this is the Black Men with Purpose podcast, season 4, episode 1. We're out for now, but we'll be back real soon.
Peace.